The creation of the preliminary task was essential before creating our opening sequences, to ensure we understood fully what kind of things went into the preparation of a media product. There are 4 rules that needed to be fulfilled in our preliminary task: short reverse shot, match on action, the 180-degree rule, and eyeline match. Short reverse shot is a film technique where one character is shown looking at another character, often off screen. Then the other character is shown looking back at the first character. Short reverse shot was limited in my preliminary task. In my opening sequence, short reverse shot was shown well. For example, when Henry is walking along the forest walkway, looks up off screen, the next shot is a big group of people, which implies that is what he is looking at. Match on action is a film editing technique where the editor cuts from one shot to another view that matches the first shot's action, making the audience forget they are watching a film. Match on action shots were an issue in my preliminary film. There were inconsistencies in my preliminary task. For example, the action where character 1 is opening the door and when the 2 characters shake hands. These shots were not smooth and jumped back, making it confusing to the audience. In contrast, match on action shots in my final opening sequence were a lot smoother, as I had learnt from the preliminary task and the feedback I received from it. The match on action shots, such as the movement where Henry slams the door and he is walking past a big group of people. The 180-degree rule is a basic guideline used not to confuse the audience. It is important as this helps to maintain the geography of a scene and where the 2 subjects are placed. If one moves, it should be obvious to the camera in order to not confuse the viewer. There is an imaginary axis between the 2, and the shots should not cross over the line unless done so in a pan or arc showing the viewer. The 180-degree rule was maintained in my preliminary task well, and also in my opening sequence. Practicing this rule in the preliminary task enabled me to utilise this skill in the production of my opening sequence. Eyeline match is where a character looks off screen and the spectator expects to see what he or she is looking at. The continuity to practice the logic of the look or gaze of a character. A character looks off screen, the next shot is what they are looking at, and the audience assume this is what they are looking off screen at. Eyeline match was weak in my preliminary task, shown as character 1 stands looking at the door. In my opening sequence, I make it obvious what Henry is looking at in multiple occasions, for example when he is looking at his phone. This is supported by the blue light reflected on his face. In my preliminary task, I only use still camera shots with basic camera angles and movements. I have developed my skill since then, as shown in my final opening sequence. I used a range of angles, shot types and camera movements, including close-ups, long shots, arcs and aerial shots. In contrast, I only used close-ups, medium shots and still camera shots with variety of camera angles. The shots are very shaky in my preliminary task, as shown in the shot when character 1 is looking at the door. In my final opening sequence, I used this to my advantage. The scene where Henry is walking to school is mainly handheld, as some of the shots are from a point of view angle. Sound in my preliminary task was very basic. There was just the sound of drums on a loop and some footsteps. The music and sound in my opening sequence is a lot more developed. This is especially shown in the section at the end of my opening sequence, where I have layered the voices at the end over the music. A key skill that has developed from my preliminary task is blogging about the process. My blog showed limited understanding of the preliminary task, but throughout the journey from preliminary task to the creation of my opening sequence, I learned how to fully show I understood the task, which was at hand on the blog. I have also learned how to edit videos in a more effective way than they were in my preliminary task. The preliminary task was poorly edited together. We can see this by the inconsistencies of the continuity techniques. However, after reflecting on the preliminary task, I was able to experiment with pace by making some shots shorter in the production of my opening sequence, bringing it up to the standard that it is at. In summary, I have learned many skills in the progression from my preliminary task to the final edit of my opening sequence, including sound, editing and blogging.